Sorry.
Yeah, I think in our, let's say, in addition to providing good products, it's also our mission to provide a good level of education. We know sun exposure is so important to protect the skin, to prevent from that, or to increase the melasma effect. So I think we try more and more with social media to have very educational things, not to promote the brand, but to help people take care about themselves. Not talking about the brands, but yes, to be aware of the impact. And maybe a question I'd like to ask to both of you: how is doing with Dr. ChatGPT now? That's when patients pay to see. Is it a challenge for you with a lack, I would say, plenty of information you can find online and ChatGPT? Is it changing your day-to-day life when you have patients that are asking questions?
Well, it can be a challenge, but it is a good challenge. You know, we have very intelligent patients now, and sometimes you'll be surprised. Like they're very young, but you know they're very knowledgeable about terms. But also, you'll also be able to guide them properly. Is it a problem? Sometimes it can be if they try to experiment with too many things and you know they don't seek expert advice anymore because they feel like ChatGPT can answer everything. But at the end of the day, it cannot. Well, at this point, it still cannot, and there's still a lot of errors, trial and errors, and they still end up going to us anyway, and we always welcome them with open arms.
Actually, I agree with Corinne, and I think Filipinos in general, we have this dependency on our doctors. I don't know with the younger ones, but our generation and beyond, they always look and ask for the doctor, even if they've seen it already, and they come to us crying because they made the wrong diagnosis of what they have, right? And then they're doing a lot of things already. But yeah, it can be a good thing and a bad thing, but I think it can be both, depending on how the doctors will treat it and how the patients will accept all those things, information.
And I think that's why today is so important. Forums like today are so important, and also that we have you, our dear media friends and KOLs, to help spread the word. Because there is a lot of information out there, and misdiagnosis, misinformation. So having these kinds of platforms really do help in spreading correct information by specialists. So thank you for that. And now we'll talk about, because a lot did raise their hands when I asked about melasma. I think especially living in the Philippines, sun exposure, hormonal changes, there's a lot of women here with us today. It is a very important topic. So, Dr. Laverne, for those who aren't familiar, what is happening in the skin when someone has melasma?
Okay, it's going to be an oversimplification actually, because it would entail a lot of lectures for you to know what's really happening. But the gist is there's an overproduction. There's certain melanocytes. No? There are certain cells underneath the skin that seems to be overworking, producing so much pigment, the melanin, and this melanin would creep up, would migrate towards the surface, and you see it clinically as brown spots, and sometimes they become maps or small islands. Okay, so basically it's just overproduction of pigments and migrating towards the surface for everybody to see. That's the shortest.
But thank you, that helps, right? Because it's important. It's important because sometimes you see these spots, but you don't know what's really going on. And that's my next question for Dr. Corinne, because so this happened to me because I had given birth a year ago, and I started developing these brown spots. And I was putting sun cream all summer the past few months, and it's still coming. It's still, so I thought, okay, is it just the sun? And that is my next question. So is there more than just sun exposure? Can factors like stress, hormones, heat, what are the factors that trigger melasma?
Definitely, it's not just sun exposure. So hormonal changes or hormonal imbalance is actually one of the pathophysiology of melasma. When you have an imbalance or an increase, for example, in pregnancy of estrogen and progesterone, for example, this makes your melanocytes sensitive, and it becomes more responsive or reactive to small triggers like heat and stress and sun exposure. So you get, you get the predilection to get melasma when you have hormonal changes. And then stress, of course, because stress can disrupt your skin barrier. And then when it disrupts your skin barrier, this also promotes inflammation. And then you get your upregulation or overactivity of your melanocytes. And this can form melasma because when your melanocytes are overactive, they produce a lot of melanin. And this is your brown spots. And of course heat, because heat always promotes inflammation as well.
So that's good to know, thank you. So, because I was putting sunscreen nonstop, and then there was, it is helpful, but there's more to it, right? Did a lot of you ever experience this? I see quite a few nodding here.
Yes, despite the sunscreen, you can still get it. But it's still good if you did put SPF. It for sure helps.
It for sure helps, but of course, I'm sure there are do's and don'ts, right? To prevent it from further developing long term. So what would you say, Dr. Laverne, in terms of what are the most important do's and don'ts for melasma?
One. The most important do is do apply sunscreen every day. The don't is don't you dare not apply sunscreen.
Okay, well, good to know. So everyone nodding here, we were on the right track.
I'm sure all of you have tried searching for all those components like nicotinamide, glutathione. Okay. Now the good thing is they're into combining. Used to be during the 90s. Sorry. Okay. You know my age because they disclosed it earlier. During that time, we have different tubes for all the different products. But the good thing now is they're investing more on research and they're trying to combine to get the right combination. We used to have really good combination, but really irritating for majority of our patients. So now they've developed. I'm very happy that we have a lot of brands now that are available in the Philippines because whenever we attend conventions outside, they said, so where can I get it? We don't have it in the Philippines, how can I prescribe it? So the good thing now is whatever you're reading, there's always some truth to it, but do not believe everything, but the combination, and it all depends on you. The number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 at night, and the 1, 2, 3, don't believe them. Sometimes, if you get a really good product, you only need one product at night, and in the morning you only need sun protection. If there's something else, then you have to add to it, build it up slowly until you get the right combination for all of it.
So with that, what ingredients do we need for melasma? Are there particular ones? And then we'll go to ISISPHARMA as well in a bit.
Okay, so for melasma, I would say like the first one would be clinically proven depigmenting agents. Of course, we have your hydroquinone, but this is not good for long-term care.
Which one, sorry?
Hydroquinone. So that is one of the tyrosinase inhibitors that is good for depigmenting, but it's not good for long-term care. That's why now it's good that we have pharmaceuticals that develop products like, for example, the DMark complex, which has licorice extract, niacinamide, and diacetylcholine. And this works just as well as your hydroquinone, and this is good for long-term care. And then you can also put your antioxidants, such as your vitamin C, and then some exfoliants, like glycolic acid and salicylic acid. And of course, SPF. SPF 50, PA++.
Thank you, that's good to know. And then with these ingredients, Mr. Florian, I know that there's neotone that does help with melasma. Could you elaborate a little bit more on it?
Maybe a quick flashback about where does it come from, neotone. I would like to say, where does Heidi arrived on the table to start doing the formulations? As we are traveling today, we were used to travel a lot in Africa as well, where we have a presence, and we were meeting dermatologists. But you're right, hydroquinone, it's the only words because they want fast results, a magical recipe. And I have some cases of patients using 2 or 3 times more hydroquinone recommended use, so I saw terrible things on skin. when we came back,
Sorry, quick question. So if you use it too much, what happens? So at least we...
you could, I would say, what I noticed, and I'm not an expert, but it's like you could get fast results in 2-3 days or 1 week, where the spots, as you said perfectly, the island, the big island spots, disappears. And 1 week after, because sun exposure, because the skin will don't react properly to, let's say, the treatments, it worsens like 2 or 3 times worse, and then to treat it is horrible. It's very visible, it's long, and even for the work of dermatologists was complicated. So we came back, we thought we have to do something. We have to do something which is credible. So the basic was, we want to launch 2 products, Neotone Serum and Neotone Radiant 50 Plus, to ensure that anyone who buys, first it's safe, second, it's efficient. So we launched a product knowing that the requirement was we have to be at least as efficient as hydroquinone. And fortunately, after 7 years of work, we managed to get a formula that was safe and competitive. 7 years, yeah, 7 years. Between the ideas, the patents, the PPI complex, the formulations, all the story. Yeah, it's a long work, but it was it. At the end, when we have a dermatologist tell us, you have something safe, as efficient as the reference molecule, we were very, very happy. So this is the formula right now, Neotone Serum and Brilliance, combined for, let's say, 3 months of use to get significant positive results.
How long, sorry?
3 months.
It's good to know, thank you. Thank you so much. But I mean, it's a lot of work for, 7 years. Research is incredible. So it's good to know that there's so much backing of research and science. All right, so we have melasma. So for those who want to try it, you can downstairs, because there's that vanity mirror for you to try and see how it works. But again, it takes 3 months for long-term usage. Now let's turn our attention to vitiligo.
So this is another important skin concern. Thank you. And this one, I don't know, has people encountered or have experienced anyone with vitiligo? Has anyone? But it does happen, so I know quite a few people actually. And like you mentioned, it does affect their mental health. So with that, Dr. Creed, maybe you can explain further, how does vitiligo develop? Can any of us get it at any given age? And what causes that loss of pigmentation?
Okay, so vitiligo, scientifically speaking, it's always been a mystery, like why certain people, but what is understood about it is that it's an autoimmune skin condition. So basically our own cells attack our own melanocytes, our own skin cells. And when you attack the melanocytes, then they die and then they stop producing the color. And this is how you develop the stark white pigments. And that's what we call vitiligo.
It's like the most, for example, the most famous example would be like Michael Jackson, right?
Yes,
Where
he
it
did
happened.
have vitiligo. And I forgot to mention, it can also have some genetic component, but that still also is not very clear.
So we don't know, but so it's not necessarily hereditary. It can happen at any given stage.
It can happen to anybody.
So it's important to be informed, and that so we don't feel like we're alone, right? And so at what stage, though, if let's say you start noticing, so how is someone diagnosed with this? And at what stage should you start using products or seeking treatment? Like, is it right away or after diagnosis treatment? Dr.
Okay, once you see it, you cannot, well, like what Dr. Green said, you do not know if you're gonna develop it or not. But once you see it, it starts small. It gets bigger and bigger. And if you have other spots around it, they can merge again into an island of white until it can cover for very few people, like the whole body almost, no? So once you notice it, then you have to consult already. Clinically, we can see it. But if you want a closure and you want to make sure that it's really vitiligo, we can do biopsy. And then we can start treatment.
And then are there common misconceptions patients with vitiligo that you'd like us to know about? Because the only thing we see are big ones, right? But we don't, like you mentioned, see the small ones that start.
I think the most common misconception is that it's contagious. It's definitely not contagious. So a lot of people are worried, oh, they'll get it from their friend, or like, for example, a classmate has it and the parent doesn't want their kids to associate with that one. And another thing would be that when we get like kids or pediatric patients with vitiligo, the parents tend to blame themselves, like, or is it something we did? Like, was it their fault? Was it an activity they did, or like, is it because of their diet and things like that? That's another misconception, and we always have to explain to the parents that it's not their fault, and explain to the child what's happening as well, and not to be impacted too much by it. Just try to live the best life with it. And then last would be that some people think that it can only occur to a certain group of people, but honestly, vitiligo can happen to anyone of any race, of any age. We can get like patients 3 to 6 months already with vitiligo, and then you can have like a 7-year-old, 8-year-old, it's their first time to get vitiligo. So that's another misconception.
Thank you. That's why it's important to know about it, because if you have friends and family that end up having these little, it looks like white patches, right? Mr. Florian, I know that there's Viti Skin, right, that addresses this. Could you tell us more about how ISISPHARMA addresses vitiligo and what you've been working on?
I have a second story about that. After Africa, it was India, where same story. The team, we were traveling a lot, and we mentioned the social aspect and contagious. Like lepers, it's an important question in India that people are rejected from vitiligo, rejected from population. So we needed to do something that could help at, let's say, affordable price for people, because it's very, very one concern, and it's very expensive what's on the market today. So we started with the ideas of understanding about the pathology, and we noticed that what we call oxidative stress is one mechanism, one way that could help explain, let's say, why we have vitiligo starts. So we developed these formulations that you can use starting from 3 years old children, even on breastfeeding women. So very safe formula to be used. It's 5 to 6 months to get significant results. And we really recommend first, of course, to have the diagnosis of a dermatologist, and second, to have the support of a dermatologist to combine Viti Skin with UVB therapy, for example, or even like laser excimer. It helps a lot to, let's say, repigment, to diminish what we call the oxidative stress, responsible from the lack of pigment, simple as it is. So it's a complementary treatment to improve the results. It's not a miracle recipe. I want to be frank, it works, but we need very alliance of dermatologists and to a long-lasting treatment, 5 to 6 months. It's very important.
But there is a treatment for it.
Yeah. You can see below on the forum that there is a before and after pictures. This product let's say, are working for more than 10 years. We have thousands of patients that get back to us. So whatever the phototype you have, whatever the type of skin, from India, Africa, European skin, we know it works. But it's a challenge. You need to believe on it. It takes a lot of time, but it's worth it.
And this goes back also to the doctors, and then we can discuss also more about how ISISPHARMA has these ingredients. What are the key ingredients to really combat vitiligo?
We use, let's say, in ISISPHARMA, I told about oxidative stress, so we have one formula quite important, which is called SOD, superoxidismutase, where we put this kind of innovative ingredient inside the formula to block all the mechanisms you have that is responsible from no pigmentation. So the white island, as you said perfectly, as here, is responsible of different mechanisms that stop the pigmentations. No pigment, no color. Your skin becomes white, as Michael Jackson. So we took this choice and we put some different vitamins to help also the melasma, to the pigmentation process, melanocyte to be reactivated again.
any key ingredients you'd like to share that resonate with you, with what he mentioned?
Antioxidants can help, and some pigmented solutions as well. But what Florian mentioned, that vitiligo is a challenge, cannot be more true. It is very true. Vitiligo is one of the more difficult cases that we can get, but there are different kinds of vitiligo. So we have pigmental or just localized vitiligo. That one is fairly easier to treat, and then we have the generalized vitiligo. This one is a little bit harder, but it's good that we have products. It's one of the skin conditions where we have very few products in the market, especially here in the Philippines.
Thank you. And I think yes, please.
Usually combine it with different clinic treatments, like what Mr. Florence said. We have UV treatment and we have excimer lamp. So it's available now in the Philippines. It's a good thing.
Great. And then before we open the floor to questions, for Viti Skin, ISISPHARMA has developed a product that we can use on a daily basis for vitiligo, is that correct?
Yeah, daily, let's say twice a day, we recommend. It's a very, let's say, gel foam formula, so very easy to be used. And twice a day is enough. So you need to, it's not because you apply every hours that vitiligo will disappear faster. But twice a day is what we recommend, morning and night, at the opposite of, let's say, pigmentation, as you said previously. So let's say dermatologist recommends to have, let's say, an exposure on a daily basis, not like to be on the sun for 3 hours, but it's quite important to have, let's say, some exposure a bit during the day to help. But yes, you can use morning and evening, it's enough, yes, to apply on the lesional area where you have a problem of vitiligo.
Thank you very much, Mr. Florian. Now,